Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to yourplaymat.com where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from yourplaymat.com. What's up YouTube, Dow here from Zephyr Games, and today we got to go back to locals, which was so cool. So to the right hand side I was running Ogdoadic Invoked, and on the left hand side my opponent was playing in Dragon Link, and as you can see from the two awesome mats, both designed by Spallow Tattoos and both provided by Venom Battle Gear, you'll be able to pick up the God one very shortly. Anyway, so I'll start off by normal summoning Alistair, you know, go brr. Obviously from here there's a couple of little things you can do with Alistair, which is quite nice, but the idea is that you want to try and open up Alistair plus a way to the snakes. So in this one I realised that I completely forgot my Cross Sheep, which sucked, so I actually had to activate Monster Reborn to make my Verte Anaconda. So this was a very flux hand. So activate Invocation, get more Macabre, that pretty much gives me near maximum advantage. Obviously the idea would be that you'd make Cross Sheep, or if you've got the snake you make Cross Sheep. Activate Invocation's effect, spin that back. My board is currently obviously Verte plus Macabre. I use Verte's effect. I think the rest of my hand wasn't great. Obviously I got the Invoked engine, which is very nice, but I don't think I ended up getting anything else to help me proceed with the snake. If anything, I probably got one of the big snakes in the hand, and it was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do a lot with that. I mean, ending on a Verte plus Verte, Dragoon, and Macabre isn't bad. And I don't think the set was... What was the set? Was it anything... It might have been Droplet. Yeah, I think the set was Droplet. So, doing alright there. And then keeping in mind, I've got Alistair in the hand. I've got 3 more cards in the hand, which is when you're playing with Invoked, and you've got Dragoon on board, you've got to keep in mind, you're going to be discarding 2 cards. So, 3 cards left in the hand. I think one of them's an Ash as well. So... it's trying to make sure that you maintain your resource while always reading your opponent's plays as well. And I think that's so difficult with Dragon Link, is there's so much to do. So we go Chain Link. I think Chain Link 1 was Striker. Chain Link 2 was the Black Metal. So then Chain Link 3 was Goon to negate the Black Metal. And then 4 was Droplets, sending Verte to negate the Striker. He's activated Chaos Space. Now, this is where I opened up another Droplet, so I was like, cool, I'll keep the spell in the hand just in case I want to send that. So we get rid of Chaos Space, and obviously because it's banished, it can't use his effect, but he's still going. He's still going. So, I mean, yeah, alright, he's committed the normal, committed the Chaos Space, but then obviously he's used the Romulus. So, the Romulus was the new engine that I hadn't really seen in play a lot of how it kind of operates, but the idea is that you discard Romulus, it gets you directly into a Dragon's Ravine. And then Dragon's Ravine can get you into the Legatis, and then you pretty much go from there. So I've burnt through all of my gates. I think the only card I got left in my hand is an Alistair, which I wanted to hold on to for either a Macabre Monster Negate or follow up in the next turn. Now, see, Legatis pretty much just special summons himself, and then revives one from the grave as well. So that's where you get Romulus from. And then he goes into, I think it's the game... Gaydar? Is it Gaydar or Grada? I always get it wrong. And then that one just lets you add a dragon. I was like, what? So, like, that's pretty cool. I'm surprised he didn't, like, he had, like, black or black collapse or white wyvern would be really cool on this one. But you send the rock, and then obviously you discard the rock, and then the rock summons itself back, and it gives you access to Crystal Wing. That's basically the play there. And in this matchup, Crystal Wing actually sucks against, like, it sucks for me, because Dragoon is like, okay, cool, you're just gonna gain the attack, and then again against Macabre, it's like all of my monsters apart from when I get to the rank 8 package all want to all have levels. So it's literally like, okay, cool, smash into Goon, and then I just check whether it gains the original attack or the current attack. So he gains the current attack, which means I take 3k to the face, and it's like, ouch. So yeah, Crystal Wing was a big issue in this matchup. I will need to try and get a different camera angle for the next one, because obviously I can tell this a little bit too far apart, so I do apologise for that. And obviously the light glare is very little I can do to control that in this environment. The dog clearly agrees in the back end that I should be doing better. So sorry for that. It's still a very good duel, and I learn a lot from my deck. I learn a lot about my opponent's deck, and I think he does too as well. So we've still got the Alistair, but what you've got to try and remember is the second we try and activate a monster effect, the chances are Crystal Wing is probably going to try and negate it. So that's where I'm trying to figure out a play to bait out. Now, in the next couple of plays that you'll see, I do something incredibly risky, but very, very worth it. It pays off. So, spoiler. But the idea is that I was trying to bait out the Crystal Wing, and this is the issue. You're trying to preempt what your opponent is going to do. And that's very difficult, because if your opponent is unpredictable, they might not negate the one thing that you expect them to negate. They might let it go through, and you're like, oh, crap. So it's always like trying to read your opponent. It's like, will my opponent think that I will make something like this and then negate the wrong thing? Or will my opponent play something else to negate that? And there's a lot to play around with it. So I think I open up one of the snakes. I think I open up Naya or Nunu. And I'm kind of like, right, well, if I declare to activate that effect, and my opponent tries to Crystal Wing it, I can then negate it with Macabre and banish Crystal Wing. And so this was one where I was like, in the initial play, I was like, right, okay, I want him to negate this, but he doesn't. And then I realised as I go further through the combo, I go, oh crap. Now if I normal summon the Alistair and he negates this, he can just like, that's it. I can't. I've got no cards in hand to banish it off of Macabre. So I was like, I'm running low on resource. And then I was like, oh right, well I need a snake on the board to bring back Nunu. And that makes it very difficult. So what I did was I sent Nunu, and Nunu sent Alarit. Now, the play behind this was to use Alarit to tribute off the Macabre. Obviously, if I'd baited out the Crystal Wing, it would have been less of an issue. But then the play would have been from there that the Alarit would tribute off the Macabre, bring itself back, activate the Nunu to summon itself back, normal summon the Alistair, and go like Purgatrio combo or Kaliga combo. So, and then this is where I'm still trying to figure this one out, because I've got Link 2s, I've got stuff that I can do. Normal summon the Alistair lets me keep Macabre on the board, so it means that my Alarit can actually tribute off the Alistair instead. I get the invocation to the hand, so I've got the ability to follow up my plays. So there's a lot to do it. So I declared to use the Alarit effect. I tribute off the Macabre, so this is where it's risky. Now, obviously, my opponent has the option to negate that, which is fine, but then he could be worrying if I've got a Gamma or anything in the hand to stop the Crystal Wing. He lets that go through because obviously Alarit will let him add a card back from his hand, so he gets to add the black metal back. I'm then going to declare to use the Nunu effect. Now, this was the one that surprised me the most. He obviously, throughout his combo, forgot that I had the Alistair. So he negates the Nunu, which for me is actually quite a big thing. There's no attack to gain whatsoever, so that's absolutely fine. And then I have to go a very obscure route. So I go normal summon Alistair. Alistair gets me the invocation. And then letting it progress a little bit more. This is what I mean. Like, I was trying to read my opponent to get him to negate a certain aspect of the combo, and he didn't. He ended up negating something that I wasn't expecting, which turned out more beneficial for me. But because my opponent was unpredictable, I didn't know at what point he was going to negate. That it makes you trying to figure out the play so much harder, and this made it even more difficult because I was like, right, okay, there's no fire, so I can't make Purgatrio. Not that Purgatrio, I think Purgatrio would have been the bad way, because obviously Crystal Wing would just go, cool, gain the attack, and off we go. So there's a lot to think about, and I've already taken 5,000 damage. So I'm already massively down on life points because of Red Eyes Fusion or Verte to Red Eyes Fusion, and then of course 3k from Crystal Wing. So the only thing that I can make, and the initial plan to make, is the Reptilia, because Reptilia will turn Crystal Wing's attack to 0. And there's a lot you need to be very cautious of with the reptiles. Not only are you giving your opponent back resource, but if you don't do it right as well, you end up locking yourself down into reptiles, or you end up locking yourself down. So you got to be very, very careful on how you kind of proceed with this. But this just kind of shows how Reptilia puts in a lot of work. Now, I explained to my opponent he's quite happy. We're not rushing or chilling or anything like that. I'm just trying to think about the combo, because I'm in a very, very cautious predicament here. All my boss monsters coming from the main deck are levels. So anytime I attack Crystal Wing, like if I make its attack 0, it's going to gain my same attack. So one of my big monsters will have to crash, or I need to attack with a Link monster. So I just explained to him, look, I'm playing out the combo. I'm trying to figure out in my head where I'm going to go with this. Because again, keep in mind, this is like, I think this is the first time that I've played the Invoked Snake version in person. And I didn't want to commit anything, because obviously this was a winner box tournament, so I kind of wanted to do well. And there was a lot to think about. So he definitely made my brain tick with... and keeping in mind, like through his first combo, he ended up facing three interruptions and still made his board. So I'll go into the Reptilia. So this is a reptile that on Link Summon, target one of your opponent's monsters, reduces attack to 0. And then during the main phase, you can add a reptile card from your deck to your hand equal to the amount of opponent's monsters that have 0 attack. But for the rest of the turn, you can't special summon monsters except reptiles. So again, this is where I need to think quite cautiously ahead, because if I'm going to commit the invocation play, I need to do that before I activate the Reptilian effect. So I use the Reptilian effect to turn Crystal to 0, because straight away my Reptilian can kill the Crystal, but I also need to be careful that I don't leave Reptil on the board, because I'm still low on life points. So all he needs to do is get a monster that's 3,200 or more, and he can smash into it. So the idea is I activate Invocation and I bring out Kaliga, because I've got no other options, but Kaliga actually puts in a lot of work. So the Striker Dragon, I'm checking on its effect, that it's effect to tribute or anything like that, and obviously I've got to be cautious of the field spell. So I bring out Kaliga, put it in defense, because again, it's another weakness if you leave it in attack. I use the Invocation effect, spin that back, get the Alistair to the hand. Now, this is obviously really important, because if my opponent's one effect is a red MD, then obviously a red MD can just smash over the Kaliga. So with the Alistair, because it gives it 1,000 defense, it makes it 28, which means he can't just easily smash over it. So the best thing about this is you can tribute Kaliga whenever you want, because you can get rid of it using an Alarit or a Curse. You just got to keep in mind that by doing either of those, you're going to give the effect back. I now declare to use the Reptilia's effect, because it is for the rest of the turn. So as long as you do everything you need to beforehand and then use her main effect to search, I choose to take the Naya, because what the plan is, I'm going to discard the Naya and put the Curse in the graveyard. So my... I think this is where I've misplayed, actually. I've used my one effect. So the Naya should... I think the Naya technically needs to be discarded during the next turn. So attack the Crystal Wing, get rid of the Crystal Wing, burn for 200. So that's that. Yeah, so I think the next play I make is illegal, but it doesn't make a difference, because then I just activate it during my next turn anyway. So yeah, this shouldn't be allowed to be activated, because I've used my one effect under Kaliga. So technically, I'm not too sure. I think this is a minor, purely because I've changed the... It might be irreversible, because I've changed the dynamics of the deck. But I suppose that technically to fix it, you just put Curse back into the deck and you put Naya back into the hand. But that's pretty much it. I've got Alistair in hand, pass it over. And kind of hope my opponent can't out my board. So, yes, that is a misplay. Do not worry that I don't think it's a massive thing. It doesn't really change a drastic amount. So, yeah, and now my opponent has to kind of figure out, he's got one effect and he can attack with one monster. He's got the the Metal Dragon in his hand. So ideally he wants to get to Red MD. So linking these two into spheres, which is kind of obviously the smart option. Works out very, very well. Uses the Red MD as his only effect, the black metal, to get him the Red MD. Again, completely fine. And he kind of holds it back, which is interesting. I don't think technically Red MD summon is an activated effect. I think it's just a summoning condition. So he could have brought down the Red MD, which would have been fine. Would have caused me a little bit of an issue, because then what he could have done with the Red MD is he could have attacked Kaliga or the Reptilia, but he holds that. So obviously he passes over to my turn. He's got the thing. So the idea would be that my one effect would be Naya to send it to the graveyard to put Curse in the grave. And then by off of the back of that, what that means is it then allows my Curse to tribute as an effect, so I can tribute off the Kaliga and make my plays. But I can hold the Naya. There's no desperation to use the Naya. And I'm worried about the spheres. So again, this is where my opponent becomes unpredictable. Because my natural assumption would be, as soon as I declare to threaten that spheres, he's going to spin the Kaliga. Which makes sense. But he kind of sees it as Kaliga's being just as hurtful to me as it is to him. And that's kind of where the inexperience of not knowing what the snakes do completely can kind of hurt. So in my mindset, the play is tribute off the Kaliga eventually and try and push for OTK. Now, obviously, I need to either negate the spheres or get rid of the spheres in some way or another. So I think ultimately what I do is I just go, right, let's go battle phase. Snake to attack the spheres. Exactly. So you see, I go to pick up the Kaliga to spin it back, and he doesn't. He chooses to spin back the reptile. Now, obviously, because he left Kaliga on the board, that's only been his one effect. So I just go and quickly check with the judge that's in the room, and I basically say, look, if he activates the sphere to bounce, can he use the sphere to summon? Because I'm pretty sure it's two different effects. Obviously, you got ruled that you can only use one effect with Kaliga on the board, so you can only use the bounce, and then you can't use the summon. So I think that's where, obviously, again, Kaliga is such a complicated card, like, until it got a rara. So I haven't used any monster effects at this moment in time. This is probably where the Naya comes back to kind of bite it round, because I would have used the Naya effect, which would have been my only effect for this turn. So then it wouldn't allow me to use the Tribute of Curse. So I'd actually have to use the Tribute of Alarit, if you're keeping up with this. So I'd have to use the Tribute of Alarit in the graveyard to get rid of Kaliga. And then I would need to use the effect of Naya to send the Curse, so that I could then use the effect of Curse to tribute off the Alarit, and then bring back the Naya. Naya would get me the Water Lily. Activate the Water Lily to get me another one of the level 8s back. And then that goes from there. So I pretty much pass it. I'm like, right, okay, I know what you're going to try and do. You're going to try and bring out the Red MD. And I choose to Veiler the Red MD. I was like, no, I'm not letting you have a dragon. Use his effect. He goes to attack the Kaliga, and I drop the Alistar. And I really wanted to hold the Alistar, but just no fires would come in. So pretty much there was no effect left to do it. Keep the Kaliga on 28, and I top deck the Invocation. I'm like, cool. Still no fires, no? You got no fires in your grave? I got no fires in my grave. And this is where I mentioned in the profile that I really wish I had the Salamander's Amaraj, because I was like, damn, it's the one time that I really, really need it. So yeah, and I'm being cautious because, again, read your cards, guys. I completely forget that Curse negates the Monster of Revival. So I was being so cautious because I was like, he's got a Crystal Ring in that graveyard. The second I use Curse effect to tribute off the Kaliga, he's just going to bring back Crystal Ring, and that makes my life even harder. So technically I make life harder for myself by not reading my card. God damn it. There's plays to be made. Now, I know that the next turn, he just Red MDs and kills my Kaliga. I've got no way to protect it. I've got an Invocation hand, absolutely useless to me. No use whatsoever. I'm pretty sure I've still got a Nunu in the grave, so I could bring that back and try and make King of the Fell Imps. So there's a lot to kind of work through and play through. And that's where the cogs in the brain are constantly ticking along with a monkey smashing them cymbals. But yeah, I mean, it's still a very good game. A lot of back and forth. So I've got the Invocation. That's in my hand. That's not set. Not that it matters too much. I mean, it could be set because it's just a normal spell card. And I'm just looking through my extra, trying to figure out the routes to go, and how to do it. And again, it's very complicated because if I'd stopped to realize and read that the Curse negates the monster effect it brings back, because I just naturally assumed that these cards were so broken when they give your opponent back resource. I didn't even consider that it negates your opponent's effects. I was just like, yeah, cool, give my opponent a free monster. You know, I'm just so used to Konami going, here, have this art type, but it does this for your opponent. And you're like, don't really like that. So like Pot of Prosperity, draw, cool, or add technically, but you can't add, and it's half damage. And it's like, seems like a dull one. Anyway, so we've got the Zohar. So the Zohar was in the graveyard, so we ditched the Invocation to add the Zohar back, and that's my monster effect. So the plan would be normal summon the Zohar, and I'm gonna make the Rika Queen, which again is really good because it sets me up a bit of a negate. And the idea is I was trying to set up a negate to try and stop the Crystal Wing, but I was like, I'm really overthinking this. But normal summon the Zohar, and the way this works is just Rika just gives you that additional monster back. So the only other rank 4 I play is the King of the Feral Imps, and he's not really like he can get me a Naya or a Nunu, but it's just not really worth it. There's no point in bringing the Nunu back for its own effects because then I'm locked into reptiles. So we're just gonna, and I was like, can I sit on Caligula? And I really couldn't by this point. I had to do something. So overlay these two. Go into Rika. Think about it. Come on. Go into the Rika. And then obviously use the effect of Curse. So now I'm not locked under Caligula. I can use as many effects as I want to, and obviously attack with as many as I want to. I just explain to my opponent what happens when this gets tributed with materials, which is really, really cool. And that gives me the Hyperion. And then from this point on, I pretty much, within reason, kind of get full combo, because what I can do is I can tribute off the Rika. And this is where I go for Alarit, because I was just so worried about the Crystal Wing. It was like, I shouldn't have been worried about the Crystal Wing, goddammit. Like, I literally should have been fine. So I just make everything so much more difficult than it needs to be. And I'm like, oh, do I use Alarit because then I don't give him anything? I was like, no, I have to use Curse. Have to get it going. So Curse effect, summon, you do you. I knew what was coming. Even he knew. Like, he'd already preempted it. He was like, yeah, Crystal Wing. I was like, Naya effect. And I was thinking of the chain of the Rika, because I was like, again, I wouldn't even need to worry about this. I was like, just thinking chain. What do I want more? And I want the Water Lily more than I want the Rika. So, because the Water Lily can give me the big Ogdoadic Overlord. So I spread the grave out. Very, very, don't do this, guys. Try and keep it separate. It's very, very bad what I've done. So, I ultimately end up doing Chainlink 1 Naya, Chainlink 2 Rika, and then my opponent negates the Rika. Or does he? I can't remember. We'll find out in a minute. So I'm like, this gives me the Hyperion, but technically the Hyperion isn't a threat to him right now. And again, there's a lot of thinking for no reason. He's like, yeah, fine. So that attaches Rika. I resolve the Naya. And again, I think this really comes down to inexperience of what these cards do. And ultimately, sometimes that's the benefit of playing a deck like this, is because your opponent doesn't know what they do, you get away with a little bit. Not by cheating or anything, but like it's just the natural flow of the game. They're kind of like, oh, okay, well, is that a breaking point? Isn't that a breaking point? So probably should do like a video of literally just break points. So I've got snakes on the board. So I activate Nunu now to bring itself back. And then he negates that with Crystal Wing. It's like, okay, fine, I don't mind that. He's obviously got a thing for Nunu. He doesn't like Nunu, so tribute off that and go for Curse. Curse effect puts 2 banished back, including a reptile, and he gets to add a card back from his hand. So I think he adds back Tracer or Black Metal, one of the two. Yeah, Tracer. I've got the rank 8 play, but again, for some reason, I'm worried about something. I don't know why. Like, just make the rank 8 play. I think I couldn't get game, and I was like, if I make that rank 8 play, I can only attack with 1 card. And I was still worried about trying to get rid of Crystal Wing, and I was worried about his attack level. So I ended up making the Reptilio again. And I put myself in a hole, because I was like, right, well, the Reptilio is 200. Straight away, I need to be able to get rid of both my opponent's monsters. Which makes it even more difficult. So, still got the Water Lily. So I've got enough to get the big boss monster. And I think, if I remember rightly, I've only got 3 reptiles in the graveyard with different names. I need to get Curse. Yeah, I've only got 3. So with the Water Lily, I get 4. So I do need to get Curse. So I couldn't even make the rank 8. I think that's why I didn't do it. Is I actually need to get both of these into the graveyard in order to bring out... Oh, did I have King of the Feral Imps? Or maybe I banned it. I think King of the Feral Imps might be banished. And I didn't put it back in. I think I put the Nunu and the Naya back in. Anyway, so I activate the Water Lily. Send in the big... Overlord boss. Overlord boss comes back. He's on 31. Now, obviously, I can't attack Crystal Wing in this mindset, because obviously I completely forget its effects negated. Reptilia negated the Crystal Wing on summon. Because I activated the spell, the Hyperion will attach the droplet from the graveyard. And then the plan from this is I can attack Crystal Wing with the Hyperion without giving attack boost, so he takes 2600 damage. Keep in mind, he's only taken 200 damage before this point. Ogdoadic goes in for 300, I believe it is. Yeah, 300. And then Reptile for 200. 200 always makes a difference, guys. You never want to find yourself like in time down by 200. So yeah, pass my turn. So now my opponent I think he's on 42 or something, and I'm on 3k. My Ogdoadic monster has the quick effect to send all monsters on the field to the graveyard that weren't summoned from the extra deck. The Hyperion has the ability to Omni negate a spell or monster effect at the moment. It's technically not an Omni, a double negate, but he can only use it once per turn. Now my opponent still has 4 cards in hand. He's still got Tracer. He's still got not quick launch. The field spell. Completely forgotten what it is. So ditches the Brotor off of Dragon's Ravine. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot you still got that in play. I was like, that's interesting. This is gonna be a fun one. And I'm kind of like, I checked with the Hyperion and it is effect, so I could get rid of the Dragon's Ravine. I'm like, what does he add? What does he send? Like, there's no Dragoonite to really send. He's already gone through his 1 Legatus, so I don't think he plays 2. And then this is the other thing as well, is with the field spell, it brings the rockets back from the grave. So like my big my big Ogdoadic boss monster is pretty dead in that sense. And what I mean by that is, it's like he brings it back from the grave. So that's 2 monsters I just can't get rid of. So it's like, right, okay, I've got to wait for him to build it into something. But again, it's this game is just such a very, very back and forth grind game. And you can kind of tell that both of us were a little bit rusty, and both of us hadn't. I probably should have been testing against Dragon Link a lot more than I had done during lockdown, but I was like, no, I don't want to. I don't think I will. So, still very good. A lot of back and forth. He sends the big rocket guy, which I think gives him a free summon at some point. Again, like I said, I'm not experienced in the rockets. All I kept seeing was like a lot of rockets were Dragon Link was topping. I was like, yeah, cool. I know this one. I've seen this one before. So, just been a little bit cautious. And I've only got that 1 negate, so I need to make sure that 1 negate counts. I'm not too sure I do it at the right time, but we'll soon find out. And I think this is where it gets a little bit overcomplicated, is in the sense that all he needs to do is get a 2800 monster on the board, and he just smashes over 2800? No, 3200. So his normal summons the Tracer. He links Tracer into Striker. And I think we've got Striker's effect. And I'm kind of like, so it doesn't target the card it's going to revive. I'm like, don't want to negate it. Like, what does it bring back? What could it bring back? And the fact it brings back any dragon, again, I was just worried about Crystal Wing. I was like, as soon as he brings back Crystal Wing, he pretty much shuts me down, because Crystal Wing would have come back from the graveyard, so my Ogdoadic would be useless. And then all Crystal Wing needs to do is attack the Ogdoadic directly, and I'm going to take 3000 damage. So, you just got to kind of make sure. And this is what I mean. They've just got so much recursion. He'd already committed the normal, and it was like, fine. I was like, yeah, he's going to add the boot sector launch. There you go. Add the boot sector launch. Then uses the effect to target, I think it's Tracer Dragon. To add it back to hand. He's got another. There is one that revives from grave. There is. So this guy, it doesn't target. It just targets one of the destroyed cards, which of course would be Striker Dragon. And then it revives one from the graveyard, and I'm kind of like, oh, I don't want Crystal Ring to come back. So it's kind of like, I kind of have to at this point. Like, that's the biggest Achilles heel. If you've got a monster that's come from the graveyard that can negate my stuff and pretty much win the game, I was like, no. So I couldn't afford to take the risk on that one. I was like, what is he going to bring back? I was like, do it. Oh no, sorry, he chose Red MD. Can it bring back any dragon, or does it have to be a dark dragon? I don't know. Maybe that's where with the oversight, I missed it then. Maybe I missed the Crystal Wing, and so did he. I got lucky on that one, because that would have sucked. So negate the Red MD effect. Get rid of it. He's already committed his normal as well. So everything from here, and I was trying to hold the Rika, the Hyperion, for the boot sector, because I knew that was going to come. Now he can bring up to 3, I believe, but he can only bring up 2 because he doesn't have another one in the grave. So obviously he's hunted for a Tracer Dragon, but I don't think he has a third to bring back because he added the Tracer Dragon back to his hand. So I think that's where he missed it, is he forgot that one was banished and that he added one back from the grave to the hand with the Striker Dragon. So he couldn't get all three on the board, which kind of really, really hurt him on that one. I was just confirming that it's up to 3, and I was like, damn, I can't get rid of him. Like, I've used up my negate, I've got no cards in hand, like, this is it. So, yeah. And I think this is where it kind of misses the oversimplification of this. And this is where you kind of just put the blinkers on and you're like, right, okay, focus on what you need to do. I've got to clear the entire board. When really, if you stop and look, all you need to do is go, right, okay, if I get a Crystal Wing on board that comes from the grave, I can adapt it and get rid of it. And then it's like, right, cool, make spheres, pass. And I was like, look, I'm not even going to risk it. We'll use the Ogdoadic to quick effect, send everything. And then I top deck a Veiler, which is actually all I need because I normally summon the Veiler. He's on 42, so I use the effect of Alarit to tribute off the Veiler. And then obviously you can add one back from hand. I just go, cool, attack for game. Like, yeah. So we both take a sigh of relief because this game had been going on for like half an hour. A lot of back and forth, a lot of grind. So very, very interesting game on this one. Anyway, straight into game 2. Now, we only have like 7 minutes left of the round after we've done side-in and after we've done the pre-setup and everything like that. So obviously, my opponent chooses to go first. No surprise there with Rocket Link. Goes Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2. I'm like, right, okay, cool. I'm going to Ash the red metal. And he's like, yeah, cool. I couldn't even do Striker Dragon anyway because I ended up opening it up with the boot sector. So, absolutely fine. I think on here, and I've heard the stories of how Dragon Link can just play through hand traps. And I think I just got too trigger happy on this. I think I was just like, right, cool, stop this or stop that. Or once they've committed their normal summon, quick, stop that. And it's not that easy with Dragon Link. And he actually makes a very impressive board. And I don't burn through a lot on my hand, but I think my hand was Invocation, Meltdown, Terraforming, and Water Lily, I think, if I remember rightly. But he pretty much gets to go off, which is kind of cool to see. So quick launch into Tracer and quick launch, Tracer and Striker into Romulus. Romulus gets you Dragon's Ravine. Activate Dragon's Ravine, send whatever. Or pitch and send. However you want to do it. I think obviously the red MD slows the combo down. This is interesting as well that he chose to ditch the Ash. So he obviously felt that his end board was going to be strong enough that he didn't need to worry, which ultimately it could do. I was surprised though, because there were so many cards like that I play, like Snake Rain, Terraforming, Meltdown, Alistair, that you probably want to Ash. So, but again, gets a Tracer Dragon. Got Boot Sector because he opened up with it, which is fine. Activates Boot Sector, activate the effect to summon down 2 rockets. So he opened up obviously the Synchron and Tracer. Then link the 2 Romulus and Synchron into spheres. So a nice little non-target bounce. Nice. Not really nice for me, but still work it. Rocket Dragon locks him into Darks, but I don't think it really matters. Gives him what he needs. So brings out the level 4. This can then let him go into... Like I said, I'm not a rocket expert, so I'm not sure. So there's the LP, and there's the Pitsy. And then it's just like, yeah, full Dragon Link combo. So like a Nibiru right now would have been beautiful. Would have been like, cool. Oh, not even Pitsy, sorry. There we go. Bring out the Chamber Dragon Maid now. I really like the interaction with the Chamber Dragon Maid. So I didn't realise that the trap's got 2 effects as well. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was worried about the trap. I was like, that can be annoying if he tries to bounce it. But then, like I said, I'm not versatile in the full effects. So he used Striker's Dragon effect in the grave to tribute itself off. Add back... just any dragon? I think add back the router or the rocket, and then that then triggers to bring back the Tracer Dragon. So we just sped it up because we both knew we only had like a few minutes left and we really wanted to get through game 2. So... and then LP and Pitsy's, or Pitsy's and LP's, whichever one has effect. Bring back the Chamber Dragon Maid. Go into Quad Borrow effect to send the trap or pop the trap and get rid of itself. Bring back Tracer and Synchron. And then obviously from here he gets a very, very nice Abyss, which is kind of cool. So it goes into the Chaos. Excavate 5. So Gamma, Red MD. I was like, broken, Red MD, bro. So take the Red MD. Even though I ashed it at the start, like it still made its way around. And it puts the trap in the grave as well, which is really kind of cool. So put those two together, make yourself an Abyss. That gives you your first negate. So at the moment, he's got an Omni negate, technically, as long as he can target it. And then he's got the non-target bounce of spheres. He's got red MD, so he's definitely got enough firepower for the next turn. And kind of build from there. So bring back Tracer, banish the trap to bring back Chamber Dragon Maid. I was like, wait, it's got 2 effects. Sync those 2 into Savage Dragon. And then Savage Dragon reattach Quad Borrow for double negate. I'm like, Super Poly, Super Poly, Super Poly, Super Poly, Super Poly, Super Poly, please. Yeah, so Super Poly, no. And I think it was another Meltdown. So I think my hand was something like, with the remaining 5 cards, it was something like 2 Meltdowns, a Invocation, and a Terraforming. And I was like, right, okay. My opponent, you let the Terraforming go through. I think there's no issue. Unless I add a Mystic Mine, and even if I did, you just negate it with anything. So, yeah. This wasn't ideal at all. I was like, right, okay, I've got to rely on my opponent to make a misstep here. Otherwise, this game's going to go into a draw. And I'm like, right, okay, cool. Activate Meltdown. Obviously, negate that with Abyss. Now, the Abyss doesn't destroy. I think he just targets and negates. So, negates the effect of that. And I'm like, right, okay, what have I got left? I've got no monsters. So, I needed to get an Invocation. I've got Snake Rain. Cool. I was like, I need to get an Invocation. So, I need to send as cost. And I've got the big Ogdoadic boss monster. So, I was like, right, okay, send that from my hand as cost. Because that's a bit of a brick without any other reptiles. He negates that with Savage. And then that's it. I'm pretty much done. I think my other card is Invocation. I was like, there you go. Time got called. I was like, look, I've got Invocation. I've got another Meltdown. I was like, I had no play there whatsoever to try and bait for it. I was like, I was all good if you didn't put, if you didn't get the Savage on the board, I would have been able to go from there. But I was just like, yeah, it was such a good game. He definitely would have got me on this one. And then we would have been going to game 3, which would have been interesting. Because it depends if you play Dark Ruler no more. And I was like, please, Super Poly, Super Poly. And I was just looking for the Super Poly. I was like, it's just nowhere there. So, yeah. Very, very good. I needed Dark Ruler. I needed something to kind of stop it. And like I said, I started in Drolls and Lanciers and all of that. And I didn't see any of that. So I was like, that really hurt. But yeah, it was a very, very good game. Very, obviously game 1 was more, not interactive. Oh, well, it was interactive, but it was more in depth than the first one. Still very, very good. The new time rule saved me on this occasion. It probably would have got me a draw on this one. But yeah, very, very good. It's always not. I prefer the old time rules. It would have been nice to see what happens if we got to game 3 or something like that. But yeah, massive shout out to my opponent on that one, on Kev. So he did very well with Dragon Links. That's still a scary deck. The fact that in game 1 he just played through so much was absolutely nightmarish. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope I definitely learned a lot. So I hope you enjoyed seeing how the Invoked Ogdoadics match up against the current meta of Dragon Link, and I hope that both players learned a lot from this, and anyone watching this learns how to do it and how not to do it, and I'm hoping the commentary helps provide explanation for that. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling. Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to Yourplaymat.com, where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from Yourplaymat.com.